Welcome to the Soul Sisters series, where you'll get thought-driven, inspiring topics for your soul with Vaughn Solis and Brenda Rachel. Okay, so here we are with part 12 of the Soul Sisters. Welcome. I'm Vaughn.
I'm Brenda.
And together, we are the Soul Sisters. That's a nice kickoff to the episode. It gets us in the energy, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Yes, because we can be here like seriously just before I hit record and kind of go, I don't know what I'm going to say. And Bren's like, I don't know what I'm going to say. Right. And then that button, the record goes on and we're with you and the angels start filtering in and we just get into the zone, don't we? We do. Of what our mission is, which is consciousness expansion, inspiration, healing, anything else? I think encouragement, support. Yeah, all kinds of things. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And we have a growing audience, and I've always believed, as do you, that the people that are meant to find this information and any information really on your journey to do any of those things that we just mentioned, that information finds us, doesn't it? It sure does. So what we talk about, we offer a conversation. So you get to listen to sisters who just talk and we talk our way through things, and what we're going through as we're growing and expanding our consciousness, because I believe that we expand right to our deathbed, basically. Absolutely. Our physical deathbed. I absolutely agree with that. It's the journey is never over to what we can know and learn for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And, and life, on this planet is just, it challenges us. We never sort of, I think, get away from the challenges. Because even if they're not ours personally, or we're not really, impacted directly, it's happening to people all around us. Mm-hmm. Stuff we may have gone through years ago. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking right now the stuff that is our core foundational piece to this. So the information is just going to find you, and then, you'll resonate with your teachers, the teachings, right? Mm-hmm. As you move along through life. We've had a few decades on the planet now, so if you're joining us and you are in earlier years, trust that your journey will unfold and information will come to you to help you with whatever you need the moment you allow it to enter your life. And I just mean by that, you're making a conscious effort to say, I want more in my life. Right. And that's what we're here to provide you. So today is kind of, sis, a little bit of a continuation of last week. Mm-hmm. We decided to keep going with this series, past the original 9 episodes, which explain all our journey and how we got to where we are today, respectively. Me from, bereavement, the pain and suffering of bereavement, losing my child to suicide, Janaea at the age of 22 in 2005, and Brenda with you can speak.
Just my debilitating illnesses and disabilities.
Yeah,
right. That led me to a conscious suicide attempt.
Right, and that was really Bren's was from a diagnosis of fibro in her early 40s with a wheelchair-bound prognosis. So both of us coming from these major life events,
right,
that some people go through, everybody goes through stuff. Mm-hmm. Events are a little different from like just challenges and, but it could be an event. If it's an event that's impacted your life and given you trauma or illness or, anything, even getting fired, you could be suicidal.
Exactly.
Anything. Mm-hmm. If it's an event, life event for you, it's a life event. And traditionally, they sort of consider marriage, birth, death, big life events. They could even be, moving and stuff. But you could look them up and see what a life event truly is. But death is certainly one. Illness is certainly one. Mm-hmm. And we both live with a condition, let's just say, that is never going to go away. Mm-hmm. So today, there's no cure for fibro.
No.
There's certainly no cure for bereavement. once you're bereaved, you're always bereaved. I spoke with a psychologist recently who actually said that grief never goes away. It just changes. That's interesting. So there are different opinions on whether or not we will always live with grief. I don't have an opinion today about that. Not really. I'm in between that. But whatever it is for you, whatever discomfort, if not suffering, one has in their life, you may have in your life, or you just want to expand your thinking because being human isn't enough for you, just in the body. And we got into our spiritual journeys decades ago. So again, once enlightened, even a teeny weeny tiny light bulb moment that goes, oh, there's more, or you have some amazing experience and go into infinity for a brief moment in a meditation, anything that shows you, wow, there's stuff out there. I can't see it. I have to trust it. And you make a commitment to that. The world just opens up to you.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. People call them miracles, right?
But limitless possibilities. I think it opened my consciousness to understanding that I'm the creator of my reality, but also that I can have anything that I choose to have and consciously can accept for myself to have. So I have to be able to receive what I'm asking for.
Yeah. I think one of the complications right now in the world, and has been for a few decades, is that when we talk about being able to create the life you want, largely it's in the context of wealth and money. Let's just be honest, money, hard currency, how much you own. So the amount of materialistic stuff you have, materialism, determines to others. It shows you and others how successful you are. I could buy a great big house, the car, the boat, travel, wear all these fancy, expensive clothes. Therefore, I am successful. And they got into this, definition of success by means of currency, wealth. Wealth is currency in terms of money and materialistic things. Certainly all through the 20th century. I'm not that old, but just from stuff, going back to, let's say the 70s, early 80s is when I got into it, 1981. And before that, you're still kind of on the cusp of writers, kind of using and talking about consciousness, what we think we feel and determines our health, for example. And so there's way more advanced work on that decades later. But if you go back to, say, the 19th century, even the 18th century, and and there was quite a spiritual movement amongst writers, artists, and you'll read about, I studied English in university, so you'll read about how they got together and they would have these amazing conversations, sometimes seances and things like that. And, or even if you watch movies of the era, and you'll see the spiritual component, or in the writings of poets, and that they often reference what we talk about today. And it's so cool because it really didn't revolve around money. It was more the consciousness. And so anyway, that's just something that I just want to say. So when we say we're living the way we want to live, and any other person that you meet and admire and is living the way they want to live, and they may be living in a log cabin on an acre, with a little lake in front of them, which would not indicate anything, sort of demonstrative of extreme wealth. So it's about the wealth you feel inside. To that person, that could be the epitome of everything they need and want to feel complete and whole and content on this planet. So certainly when I would wager you, talk about creating the life, living the life you want, it is within the context of what we feel that completes us rather than what we are.
I was just sitting here listening to what you're saying, and my whole assessment of what my journey has never included wealth. at all.
Yeah. It's never been important to you, has it?
No.
Interesting.
No.
And you're a person that would give the shirt off your back to someone else, and often, well, almost the shirt off her back.
Yeah, I would help anybody at any time if I could.
Yeah, very giving and never thinking like, say if you want to buy a bouquet of flowers for someone, you don't sit there and go, do I have enough money that's $20-$30 in the bank I don't have, So that's a trait of yours that's really quite admirable and wonderful. It's just part of who you are and who you came to the planet to be. A very giving person, a selfless person. And your needs are minimal. I can't tell you how many times I remember you giving all your stuff away and starting over.
Yeah.
Like even it seems like your natural. So what more can I give away? Because I don't need it.
Right.
Because I don't need it.
Right. And I'm actually going through that process right now, looking around in my place and just deciding what in here do I really have I used it in the last 10 years or 15 years or whatever? And do I really need it?
Yeah.
Not that wherever, if it was on a shelf or in a cupboard or whatever, that I need that room for something else. So it's not taking up space for something.
Yeah.
It's not doing anything sitting there, and maybe somebody else could use it. So I was just going through that about the last couple of weeks.
The thing is also when the more expanded your consciousness becomes, and all of our episodes in the Soul Sister series are rooted in consciousness expansion, but arriving at it and wanting to pursue it in different contexts. And those episodes offer a variety of contexts in which we pursue and don't give up when we're on that path. So today we're talking about the large I am all caps as source, the supplier, if you will, consciousness, our provider, our God, the universe, in whatever name you want to ascribe it, versus the small I am, small letters. And that came to us one day, sitting, having chai out.
Yep.
And we were talking about how we come to the planet. Okay, well, there are those that believe we come to the planet to suffer. And we did all about that in part 11. So we've talked all about that in previous episodes. Are we here to suffer? Or are we not here to suffer? That's not the point of today's conversation. What we are looking at is our consciousness. The more we expand and the more we feel at one, the more we can separate from ego. So the small I am representing ego, the all caps I am representing, I'll just say source today, source and ego.
Yep.
When we, when we get into that, the ego, right, to recognize that we're in it and what to do to get out of it and goes, just stop, And so when we were talking about coming to the planet, and I made this comment to you, well, it's like a smorgasbord of suffering. You take your choice, and then we're like, oh, well, we could talk about a smorgasbord of suffering. And then I went, you know what? That's kind of exhaustive because it's already exhausted, and it's kind of exhaustive because it's so all-encompassing for so many people and the planet itself.
Yeah.
And so it's like, take your pick. But so instead of doing that, we went, you know what? So let's just focus on the I am. So I think we made a comment about, I'm tired, I am feeling not well, I am, whatever it is, I am in the negative though. I am broke, I am miserable, I am mad at my partner, I am whatever that I am is, which if you stop and really think and count how many times we say it, right?
Many. I think it's so subconscious and even to a point like unconscious that we use that terminology to start a sentence. And yet when we have the opportunity, as when we were talking and all of a sudden went, wow, this would be a great topic to talk about the I am all caps versus the I am smaller letters. And the I cap and the I am smaller letters. And
No, the I is even small.
oh, it is
I dot.
oh I don't.
I dot.
Okay.
Small I.
Okay, so
Small A M.
yeah.
It takes the so what we were going what this led me to think about immediately is and it was like a light bulb moment for me was if you thought of yourself as I am, as source, all encompassing, powerful source, I am, all caps, surely to goodness we wouldn't sit there and go, I am sick, I am broke, I am angry, I am anything, because all you know in that consciousness is perfection, wholeness, love, contentment, completeness.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And so the point of our conversation, I don't know how long this is going to be. I don't know how deep we can go other than just to sort of have you think about it and give some examples here. But it's to, I'll just throw this out and then turn it over to you. But for me, it's to when I get in those small I am moments that are completely ego. It's little Vaughn in little human body where something has triggered me and angered me or made me fearful or anxious or whatever it is. Okay, but it's always in the negative. Usually if you stop and think about it, I mean, and I'm not talking about I'm busy right now. Somebody calls and I'm busy. I'm not talking about that. We're talking this is strictly emotional here, mental, emotional. It's usually always in the negative because if you train yourself, you know, when you're feeling successful, when you're feeling content, when you're feeling wealthy, when you're feeling your world is just amazing. And we don't hear that enough from each other, right? We really, I think, almost have been taught not to boast or scream from the rooftops our joy. And if someone is screaming from the rooftops their joy, everyone stops to look at them and kind of go, what happened? How'd they get that? Think of weddings. You ever stop by a wedding in a park and you stop for a moment? I mean, most people do, just to have a little look at the happy bride and groom or bride and bride or groom and groom, whatever it is today, right? But it triggers an instant understanding of their joy. It's triggering that. It's actually triggering is the wrong word, but spreading that out from them because they just can't help but be so joyful in those moments. And we feel it. As soon as we see it, the outfits are symbolic of that joy. So the I am is symbolic. Capital I am is symbolic of that same thing that I believe is at the center authentically for all of us. And it's being buried, hidden, you know, like a little treasure for us to discover. And it completely changes in a heartbeat, instant. I am, so I am small, I am sick. Want to get rid of it? I am, all caps, healed or feel tremendous right at this moment. You know, it's another bit of a not a difficult conversation or a complicated subject, but it's one to maybe we have to think about we maybe have to think about.
Well, I also think that it's not to deny the true state of what we're in. If we're feeling sick, I am sick, I am sick. I think the thing that I want to focus on for myself is with the all caps is that's where I can take myself from the small letters. Okay. So it's not for me to sit there and say, I can never say again, I am unwell or I'm not feeling good or I am panicked or I'm having an anxiety attack or all the things that I go through. It's okay. How do I get from the small to the large? From the human small letters to source caps. And that's the gift that keeps on giving as we progress, because the I am caps never goes away. Exactly. And so we can reach for that pinnacle at any moment. You can put it at the top of a piece of paper and put it on your fridge or whatever, have it on your computer and just look at that, just I am, and say, what are 3 things I am through source right now? And whether it's I am at peace, or I am joyful, or I am receptive, I am open to receiving goodness today, I am open to harmony, beautiful, all these things, or I am living harmoniously.
Yeah. So this is like a little coaching tutorial for you. Instead of on a webinar, we'll do it this way for you. So as you're talking, because we haven't talked about this, we talked about this, that chai.
We came up with the title and went, oh, this would be a great title, and we'll just have to see where it goes.
And so I will say that I don't consciously remember it all the time, but here's the thing. When you're aware of something, it's easy to go back to it.
Yes.
And go, wait a minute, I remember that now.
Yeah.
So as you were talking, the small I am to the capital I am, we'll go the large I am. And you said the pinnacle. Okay, so I am, all caps, is the pinnacle of what I want to be feeling and expressing in this body going forward for the rest of my incarnation. So it says, so how I wrote it down while you were speaking is it's a representation of who we are and who we all are and what I am striving to be at all times in my inner state. So the other thing I wrote is it's an inner state. All caps I am is the inner state that creates the outer state.
Right. And I think also too, for me, it's my absolute most spiritual connection with source whenever I start something with an I am, because that's my acknowledgement that everything in that state comes from source. And it's not the physical me, right, in some kind of lower state of mind on the planet. I am in my absolute deepest connection with source, with the capital I am.
Yes. So I think we've made it pretty clear how we, just you and me, consider that.
Again,
transformation.
This isn't to try and have any of you adapt this as your philosophy,
right,
or way of wanting to live. This is totally where I'm coming from and my own living experience,
right,
and spiritual experience.
For me, it's kind of like a strategy, an instant strategy I can use to get myself out of a state, small I am, the lower state. Let's just call it lower and higher.
Sure. I love that.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Lower and higher.
Yeah.
See?
Well, because
we come to this while we're talking.
Because that's what
lower case and higher. Yeah, that's how stuff comes to us, okay? But it's true. So the lower state, the higher state, and there has been debate about I am for millennia, probably. So we come here with this I am, which also is a pronouncement, if you will, of our individuality,
right?
And the higher state I am is the collective, the connection to one. So our collective as humans on this planet, whether we like it or not, and all spiritual practitioners, both as leaders, coaches, and students, understand that from the very beginning.
Right.
We are one.
Right.
And the I am is all caps I am,
and inclusive. It's inclusive of all humanity on this planet.
Right. And the ego, right, the small, the lower I am, right, is, the human, essentially, us without recognition of that greater power that we all have within, that the connection gives us.
Right.
So,
the small I am is we're not tapping into our true potential that we came here to be which is spiritual beings on this planet.
Our potential and our power.
And our power, right?
Our potential and our power.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talk a lot about personal power, and I've been talking about it since basically 2006 when I wrote Divine Healing, and that book is based on complete, transformation by understanding and claiming your personal power. Transforming pain into personal power is the subtitle of that. And so your work is all in you don't really frame it in personal power, your work, do you?
No.
But mine is. And so personal power is something we're starting to see more of as language today as well. It's very interesting. It's not as kind of like an isolating a phrase as it was back in the early 2000s, certainly the mid-early 2000s when I was writing Divine Healing. But that book, a large part of it was channeled to me by angels and my daughter on the other side. So I had to write it, even if I didn't maybe connect to it. I understood it, but culturally, we're just at that point, and even today, we're not talking a whole heck of a lot about personal power,
Right.
not in the sense of our inner being.
Mm-hmm.
And what we really have as a capability, what we really are capable of doing, which really, to make it simple, guys, is just creating a life we want and having things be easy, not difficult,
Right.
and having everything roll into our lap.
Right.
Right? Which people call magic or miracles. We live like that, don't we? Oh, and so does my son. Right? And so we might, and my husband, I mean, he can't help but benefit, but I guess I'll give him a nod and say he does believe in this stuff too. But you're welcome. But there are so many examples of manifestations in my life and your life, and certainly my son's, that because I raised him this way. And my daughter isn't here anymore, but I raised her the same, so she would have benefited too. She probably was already, but so I have to keep it to just my son. But I taught him, and so for me, it's so much fun to watch another generation, who poo-poos this stuff, by the way. But then, gets everything he wants, okay. Right down to the color of the vehicle, right down to the job he wants. Now, these things can take time. And so for any of you with this consciousness, even being influenced by it, like my son, or maybe you're an adult child of a parent that's raised you this way and life's just really easy. And I'm not talking about, the golden spoon here or silver spoon and being handed everything. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about seeing examples of having, say, a spiritual parent or a parent with a spiritual practice who has taught you, life doesn't have to be hard. We can really manifest and get what we want. What is it that you really want? Because the other big piece of this is two things. And I want to get your opinion or thoughts on this. Is one, we have to know what we want, right? Which can change, right? And then the second thing is the time piece. Sometimes it takes a little while.
Right. I was just going to interject there and just say, so we have to know what we want and not give it any kind of time frame. So
the bigger thing, like anything, actually, anything.
Oh, yeah, absolutely anything. But not to set that it has to be in a month or 2 months,
right?
Whatever.
Right.
Because some things may come much quicker than I ever thought possible. Things manifested, and other times not so much.
And the reason I believe this is because all the pieces, sometimes what we want, there are other players. And often, say if it's a job that you're really, really wanting, sometimes, boom, you're going to get it like right away. Other times, the right place for you has to open up through a series of other events.
Exactly.
That are happening. And it's like a chessboard with all these pieces moving around, actually like dominoes even. And sometimes if I spend too much time thinking about all the people affected and everything has to move in like this complete perfect formation for everyone to go where they're meant to go to, it's amazing.
Yep.
And I will wager almost anyone you ever talk to, if you're living your life like this already, yay, you'll totally be sitting there. I got you. I get you. If you're not, and you're going, yeah, sounds great for you, or sounds great, get me in on this, okay? Really, it is a matter of learning the power, understanding and trusting that power one has to believe. And so you want something, nobody is, unfamiliar with the concept of intending manifesting. Brenda and I have talked about that before. We really don't have a structured intention manifestation practice because we work with angels and have for so long now. It's just we do the request up and basically get it. We just wait and we get it. And if we don't, it's because something better came along. Okay, quite frankly. And I'll be honest, maybe something doesn't turn out. I've said before in one of our episodes, I, for fun, keep a Word document with all my requests. Requests that cause me or have, they don't anymore, but anxiety. Oh, I really need that to work out. I'm, I think, at page 40 on my table, and I chart the date I asked, what I asked for, the date that something occurred, whether it was fulfilled or something different happened. I had a request on there. It's like maybe 2 years old. And I'll be honest, that one was for my son to be directed to the exact perfect job that he had identified, that he really wanted. And it just actually occurred this past week. And it is now, I know, it's like a mom, I can kind of go, okay, great. He's on his way on his path. And I'm sharing that with you because he's in his early 30s. And this is a time for some of you, if you're watching this as millennials and even younger, but certainly in your 30s, maybe a little older, and you're making changes. You're in that part of your life where some are settling down, some are getting, into a relationship, having families, making different career choices, or wanting to be promoted and move up in their career, things like that. And the 20s can be a really, thought-provoking decade where you're trying to figure out what you even want to kind of do. And you get into it and then have to really rethink again to set you up for a different period in your life, which it's really interesting because I was reading about how the 30s sort of are this period I just talked about. So to me, it's sort of a period of a stability and a foundation for the rest of the adulthood. And I'm seeing that in my son. And so I'm just giving that as an example because he's kind of like my star coaching client. And, okay, I would be really, really wealthy if I charged him for all my time. But anyway, it's really interesting because I get to see whether my ideas that I have for him and how I encourage and support and coach him based on everything we're talking about, right? You can do this, you got, and then seeing the stuff fall in his lap where it looks to other people like, well, that's just not possible. He actually just had someone say, what you're doing is just not possible. Well, guess what? It was. And in a very speedy time frame. So it's so much fun also to live like this, isn't it? Because we know and we trust that what we want and the things that you want, by the way, they never go away. That's a very deep-seated, no, I really want this, right? And other things that we go, I think I might like that or whatever. If it eventually kind of, no, not so much, or you forget about it or whatever. And this is the time piece we're talking about, right? And when you have to wait, that waiting period before you actually see something become very real in your life, it could also give us the opportunity to kind of go, yeah, maybe I don't want that. And that's happened to me plenty of times.
Yeah. And I'll just interject here because most of the things that I ask for aren't material. And so
what would be an example?
I don't have the last thing that I asked for that I got was my apartment across the way here, going into my 4th year. And I had requested from where I was living that the next place I wanted would be a top floor and that I'd be close to you.
Yeah.
And so I got that within 5 days, 10 days, because I moved within 23 days from my former place to here.
And we're neighbors.
And we can see each other from each other's balconies.
Yes.
So
we're in that buildings. But you know what?
Like that.
Yes. What I was going to say, though, getting a top floor where we live on Vancouver Island in an oceanside small city, you had good luck with that.
Yeah, and that was when I say top, so it was a 4th floor, so they have not a lot of large buildings, but in any event, it's not an ocean view and it's nothing like that. Like these, my sister and brother-in-law have, but they have a spectacular, beautiful view from their place, which I get to enjoy when I'm here. But I'm just saying, so that mine's more for healing and for peace of mind, and for just having different things that come out of the blue for me that I have to deal with, and I get an anxiety about to help me through those processes. Yeah,
that's an interesting point you're making, because I'm sitting here going, when's the last time I asked for something material? I don't even know. I doubt it. I just don't, because I have everything I need. I really do. And if I need something, I know I'm going to get it. I can get it. So for me, it would be more things like reducing anxiety. I'll ask for things for my son.
Yep.
I might ask things for my sister, but it's more along the lines of, for us, for sure, keeping this just between you and me, what Brenda just talked about, good health, recovery, calm, peace, contentment, things like that. So bringing it back to you, because we're the ones sharing here and have been at this practice for so long in our respective lives, decades, 4 decades, over 43 years for me, 43, 44, no, 40, we'll go 43. And you probably almost 50, I don't know, 48, I don't know, but decade.
A long time.
Okay, so this is like, we've had our own things that we've had to learn along the way and expand. But when you've been in this long enough, it comes down to really two really basic things, believe, trust, and have faith.
Exactly. 3 things.
Believe, trust, and have faith.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Know thyself and believe, trust, and have faith that you can create what you want. And how you do that then is by asking for the right guidance, right? The right tools, the right people to come into your life, the right community to be a support for you, awareness, insight, courage.
And I'm just going to throw in here, I know you might want to add to this, but always for my highest and best.
Yes.
Always. We only want things for our absolute highest and best.
Yeah. And I forgot to add that, because I do actually say it in my morning. I have a morning ritual that I go through for myself, just mentally, for my highest and best, and the highest and best of all others concerned, by the way. And, for us, the angels have made this just so much more impacting. Hey,
well, we just know before we put out our request that it's going to be answered.
Yeah.
It might not be answered exactly how we're asking it. There might be something that's not quite exactly that way, but it absolutely will be answered, and always in a positive manner.
Yeah,
always.
And if it's a different result for us, so I'm trying to think of an example, because this wouldn't for me be related to, say, a health or anxiety, because that's always answered. But I'm just saying, so say if it's something I've asked for my son, like to be directed, or for me, I'll give you an example. Here's a recent example. So this isn't exactly materialistic, but it is opportunity. So my husband and I are going traveling in December for a few months to Southeast Asia. And one night, maybe about 3-4 weeks ago, I got this like epiphany to do pet sitting abroad. So fast forward, it was all arranged and we got our first gig within, 2 weeks. And I didn't even apply to go on this platform for at least a week and a half, because I was like, no, I need to think about this. And when we decided on the Monday, okay, let's join. So we joined the platform, and this is like maybe 2 weeks ago now, I don't know. And by Wednesday, we had our first local sit on an island. That's actually literally we can see the island. And, so we can come home if we need to, or my husband, but, it's like one little 20-minute ferry ride for us. And we're going to look after these 2 little pooches. So I was open to that. So the larger picture was, how cool would this be if we could do this in Southeast Asia a little bit? We get to spend some time with animals, purpose of the platform, because we no longer own animals. We currently do a little pet sitting for a friend of ours with a cat and a dog. So we get our little cuddles that way, and we totally love animals. And thirdly, there's so many benefits, but thirdly, we can maybe meet some cool expats in different countries. And, and a primary reason for a lot of people, but it shouldn't be this, is that it can save on accommodation costs while you're traveling. So just saying, to get that first gig within a few days of getting on the platform. But here's what I want to say. It wasn't the one I thought I needed to go to.
Right.
Okay. And which was cats, and on another island close to us. And so at first I was a little bit like, whoa, okay, this didn't work out. But I'm just trusting the process. I'm going, okay, it's dogs. It's a different island. Same period of time. We got the gig. That's where we're meant to go. And so the other piece I want to say in this is, once you trust, believe, have faith, right? And you have to get better at it, because it can be very hard in the beginning when you first start this kind of practice to get to that point where you just, request in, letting it go. And then, oh yeah, I got that. So some people sit there and they're watching the clock, and or they don't have enough insight yet to understand that what they're getting is better than what they asked for. Right? There are different things that can make a people give up, or it's not quick enough. It depends what you're asking for. A lot of people, and this is where I'm going back to what we started with, success and manifesting is rooted in a lot of times, you want that sports car, you want that luxury holiday, the material stuff that, okay, maybe you really wanted that, but maybe you just think that you want that and need that because you'll have a better life and it'll get you out of your crappy situation or whatever it is. Manifesting and change always has to start within to give you the constant transformation and the trust and the faith and the belief, because really what you're doing is you're believing in yourself as a partner with Source.
Right. So I'd say to start with believing, and then trusting, and then having the faith that it's going to unfold the way it should for your heart, yours or mine, the highest and best.
Yeah. And that faith piece is so important, because the faith piece isn't just for an intention to manifest.
Right.
The faith piece is our testament to the relationship we have with Source. And by the way, this isn't too different from people who are fundamentally religious, or they're traditionally religious, and so it's not like the spiritual metaphysical practice we're talking about here. It's all rooted in going to church, reading the Bible, and trusting God will deliver. It's not that dissimilar from what we're talking about here.
I say the whole thing with having faith is, for me, letting go and letting God.
Yeah.
God, spirit, Source, divine, whatever, and just letting go.
Yeah. So we were both raised Christian, have Christian roots. and expanded. We expanded that individually and at different ages into a spiritual practice, which for me, and I'll ask you what you think, but for me, the only real difference is from being just fundamentally Christian is that I feel a part of God and I have a right to ask for help from God and angels. And I live as that sort of spark, and that is what, as soul and spirit, we are a spark of that infiniteness, infinity, that omnipresence, just a teeny tiny spark, which gives me the personal power to understand that I can be here and enjoy and have a wonderful, abundant life in every way that I so desire. And that may not be 10 million bucks in my bank account, right? Because I understand money doesn't buy happiness. For me, I'm not going after the millions of dollars in the bank account because that's not what I need and I want. I'm quite comfortable with what I have. And that's probably another episode on its own. And I'm not sure that we're going to do that, but understanding what it is that you really, really want. But it is important to understand what we're talking about here in terms of the belief, trust, and faith, because when you start out, and if you learn from teachers or books or YouTube or wherever you're learning from, that, you got this ability to intend something and manifest it. And man, if you're not living like, top of your A game, you're missing something. Well, then you're always possibly going to be going after things that you're really not checking in with your heart, your purpose, your true desires, your true nature, your character of what it is you want and how you really want to be living and surrounded by, because it's not the money piece. The money will come. All that stuff will come if that's in fact what you need to support how you want to really be living.
Well, yeah, and I guess for me, I'd just say it's not any kind of like let's put this out there and just let's see if it happens. No, it's not about that. It's like there has to be a real connection to the commitment to asking Source, to working with Source, when we intend for something to happen, and not treat it like it's some kind of, well, let's just see if this really works. You have to have an innate belief that you deserve this and you are worth this and that you can achieve what you believe.
Yeah, I just wrote down that you have to have a commitment to the connection power of the relationship to Source, because that's what it is. It's this relationship you have to the connection to the greater whole, Source, as I say, call it whatever you want, in consciousness, call it God, whatever it is that gives us the peace and the knowing that we're not alone, even when we think we are alone, in any capacity in this human life, in our suffering, in our misery, in our ill health, in our times of poorness, poverty, right? Certainly, we both had financial struggles.
Oh my God.
God, but not for a long time now for me anyway, and not for you either. But we got ourselves out of them, didn't we?
Yeah. But it was very, very troubling for a long time.
Yes, but we had trust and faith, didn't we?
Yeah.
Didn't we?
Yeah.
And in our respective ways, there's a solution for everything.
Yeah.
And we got ourselves out of what we got into. So it's not like you get to skip the line for either hardship, suffering, relationship breakups, crappy jobs, places you don't want to live. The list goes on and on and on and on. But until you work with and finesse your style, what you want, grow into who you authentically are, these challenges actually don't appear as challenges, which we talked about in another episode. They're not challenges anymore, really. It's just, okay, I got to deal with something. What's my solution?
Right.
And we are getting better, both of us, at going straight to the solution.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, which is Source for me. But the other thing I'll say, too, is that if it doesn't manifest in the way that you put out to Source, and you think like, this isn't what I asked for, then it's not about anything going wrong. It's just that at that time, from wherever your conscious state is, that's what is manifested for your highest and best in that moment. And so things could look differently, come to you differently and in a different way than you even ever thought that they would. And it doesn't mean that there was anything wrong in the delivery or asking, believing that, you deserve this. So.
Yeah. There are a lot of moving pieces to this. So the other thing is to consider wherever you are on your journey and with your experience, living a life committed to, having source as your driving force. I like that. Source is your driving force. Yes, and wait. I have to write this. Source is your driving force. Ooh, I like that. Anyway, but the thing is because you can get in there within that context, your purpose as you get older, as you get just more in touch at any age with your purpose. But let's keep this to an adult. And within that, your lessons, other stuff that happens, soul contracts, what you've contracted with other people. So it's there's all of that to consider within the whole life. Okay, what you study, what you become. The minute you involve other people in your life, the minute, and I'm talking intimately involved, so you're in a committed relationship, you have children. There could be contracts, things like that. There could be purpose that's related to other individuals. And so the highest good of everyone must be considered.
Right.
Must be considered.
Well, yes, I would say that if they're asking, if the person out there is asking for things that involve other people and not just themselves, that it's always for the highest and best of either myself or for everyone involved.
Yeah. And so, when you want things for a child, for example, an adult child, you can ask for them. And when they're an adult, for goodness sake, and even sometimes when they're still younger, it's their life. It's their life. And if they don't really want that, if we try to push our kids into something, when they're younger and they really don't want to do something, listen to them. Goodness sakes. This from a mom who lost a child. I wouldn't say as a pushy mom at all, but sometimes we can look at our kids' potential and want things like that.
Also, I think that some parents are living through their children the same experiences in their own lives.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're really talking this I am is very individual.
Right.
So keeping the lower I am, ego, and I will say, for the most part, intending comes from ego.
Right.
It has to, because here we are sitting in this body of ours going, oh, well, I really would like, or whatever, do your list. That's all ego. Okay, the holiday, the car, the job, anything that is in the physical, material context, that's ego. The spiritual part of it, when we sort of, I'm just going to say it, almost kneel to the source and say, I am feeling ill. I am feeling sick. I am suffering, right? And we're asking for release from that. Then it feels like we're almost that spark that, I don't want to say lesser, but there's something like a word I'm looking for, but a very humble aspect of my being that is now requesting something from a much greater power than I am on my own able to really ignite, because I wouldn't have the skills in this brain of mine. I don't have that. That has to come through us through enlightenment. All of so a connection, an absolute recognition of your connection to source will come as an enlightenment, maybe a little awareness, but an enlightening moment. It did for me. And I had more than one enlightening moment. I've had like maybe a handful of them where I understood and I felt so connected. Like it is an experience you can't feel just from ego. And so however it comes to us as a knowingness, and you just know.
Yeah.
And it will come to us in any way, but it is greater than coming as a request just from ego. That's my experience with it. And I just want to share that and so you can understand the difference. So I've always sort of said it's fun to request and intend to manifest those earthly things. That can be really fun because we deserve them. And that's how we live. I intended my ocean view here, but I went for it thinking, and when I say intended, for us, like we say, we don't sit there and intend, but I did years ago. I actually ran a global intention practice for a couple of years based on the work of Lynn McTaggart, who wrote The Intention Experiment, and she had a little part in her book where you could, learn how to run an intention group around anywhere in the world, which I did for 2 years and absolutely loved it. And that was very much, I intend. And so there was a period in time and working with someone else, coaching someone else through it, that we did use that language. But you and I don't use that language. But wanting something, having a deep desire within is kind of the same thing. And so an example, when I talk about the ocean view, back 6 years ago, and my husband and I lived at the waterfront where we were living in our small city, and we wanted a bigger place, and I actually wanted a water view. And I just thought, I remember talking to you many, many times about, well, I'm not in a financial position right now to be able to afford that. And the universe, source, the angels thought differently and landed us in our current Ocean View condo. We've been living here for 6 years. So what you think, and that's another piece I want to bring up as we get to the top of the hour here, is what you think you want, but it could not ever happen. It's not possible. I need to have this much money. I need to be here. I need to be this. I need to be that. And you put all these conditions on what you, from ego, right, think you need to have to even entertain the idea you could manifest, quote unquote, manifest this. Toss it. Because when the universe, source, God, anything you want to call that, delivers, for us it's the angels, all of that, right? You don't question that, right?
No.
You trust. You trust and you believe and you have faith, right? I think we're going to go back. I'm going to back when I edit this, and I think that we've given you quite a bit of information and things to think about. If not, we can revisit it in whatever we talk about in the future, because it is at the core of creating the life we want.
Absolutely.
Even, and I am going to say in some cases, even health, in many cases, health.
Oh, absolutely.
But, like you have had the fibro diagnosis, and to date, there's no cure for fibro. I have had bereavement, and there's certainly no way to change the bereavement, but there's certainly lots of ways I can change how I want to be in bereavement, which I'm currently completely in the midst of, which is living in complete joy and acceptance of the experience in this incarnation. Again, we talk about a lot of that in our earlier episodes, how we arrived at where we are in our life with these things that have presented as great struggles for us. So, it's not impossible. In fact, it's quite possible and quite probable. In fact, it is totally probable you will create exactly what you want, perhaps in a slightly different way and not in your time frame, but you will get it if it's something that you truly, truly want in your heart, you are aligned with, and you know why you want it.
Absolutely.
Any last thoughts?
No, believe, trust, and have faith. And everything for the highest and best. Always, for myself, and it always this or something better for my highest and best.
With source as your driving force.
I love that too.
All right, this rounds out another one. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. It's been a blast.
Yes.
So once again,
we are the
soul sisters. See you again. Bye.